Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Spirit Journey, and yes, it is early. Was it Wednesday morning now? It's my clock says it's 5:47 a.m. I went to bed early last night, and when I go to bed early, I usually wake up early too. I was actually awake for about 2 hours. Yes, I hope you can hear me well. I do have the air conditioner on. It was very hot in this room, so I had to turn on the air conditioner. So I apologize if it makes too much noise. And yes, these what you see on the camera, my little furry friends here who are with me. Yes, good morning, viewer. How are you doing? This is Spirit Journey. Just starting the video. Please say hello in the chat if you wish, so I can say hello back. I've got to put on my glasses in case other people come on and share their comments. Yeah, I'm still in bed and I'm not really dressed, and so that's why you're not seeing me. And what you see is by my feet, my little furry friend there. Yes, we're resting right now. Um, yes, I hope you all are doing well. And I want to talk about several issues. I see in this whole walk, this, as again, my channel name, Spirit Journey, and boy, I feel like I'm being pulled in many directions, emotionally and spiritually. This is all a process, and I'll allow myself in this process to make mistakes and hopefully to learn from my mistakes. I'm prompted to do this live stream, and again, I'm doing live streams. I'm having problems with my arm and hand. It's been hurting me a lot. It's hurting now, and I find that doing the live stream, then I don't have to do video editing, so it minimizes strain on my hand. And you know, it is kind of fun for me to do the live stream anyhow. Let me know if you can hear me well, because I'm doing this live stream using my iPad, and the mic is on the side of the device, and sometimes it interferes. So let me know if the audio or the if the audio is problematic. Okay. So, um, I want to talk about this. I don't know how to express it really, but I was watching a fellow YouTuber. I'm not going to give any names or anything like that. I was introduced to this YouTuber online, through YouTube about a year and a half ago. He has a fantastic channel. At that time, I was interested in planting. And, with YouTube, when you watch a particular video on a subject, you'll find others like it. And so that's how I came across his channel. And I admired a lot of things about, yes, hello, YouTuber. Yes, I admired a lot of things about this particular channel. It was very informative, and I learned a lot from it. And it helped encourage me when I was doing, learning about plants and everything. And then one day, the the person started to introduce certain terminologies with this, you know, um, things with the Bible. Now, I have shared on this channel that I used to be a Christian. And I know in some Christian circles, they would say that you were never saved if you no longer follow the Bible. And I've heard this type of argument when I was still involved with the Bible. This video is not about slam dunking anybody who honestly wants to serve goodness in their heart. Okay, it's not about that. You know, what's true is true. But this person, I sense, was changing. They started to reveal things about them that I didn't know about. And in a video that I saw just a moment ago, the person really started sharing a lot. And I felt the person's pain. It explained a lot about the individual. But what prompts me with doing this video about the Bible, and is it our friend? Is the Bible really our friend? Okay, I'm doing this video in America, United States of America, and throughout the Americas, you have a lot of trauma, a lot of ancestral traumas that were done upon us, done upon Black people. Again, we're not the only one that's facing trauma. I mean, trauma is what trauma does, but this is addressing the Black community. I was listening to this person share his family stories. This person and many, many, many Blacks from the South have all this sexual trauma, including myself. I'm from up north, but my background is the Caribbean. I always let my YouTubers, my viewers know about who I am, my background, because I don't want it to be hidden. I like to be upfront about certain things, about my background, so you understand where I'm coming from, and I'm understanding where you come from. But since I was born and raised here in America, in the Northeast, my identity is here. And so this YouTuber that I used to follow regularly had mentioned about their family traumas and a lot of sexual traumas. And I felt this person's pain. I understood. And it's so typical of our community. And then the person was discussing about the women of the Black community. Basically, he's really addressing Black women. Well, it turns out that he was sexually violated by his own female siblings. And so being sexually traumatized, this individual was sexually traumatized by his female siblings. I understood the pain and the Bible. Now, I don't know what this person's religious tradition is. I assume Christianity, just, in the South, and based on his age, in general in the South and in that time era, a lot of Black people went to church. And most Blacks down there in the South were Protestant in general, or Catholic. And then in the person's journey, his channel journey, he started introducing different different personas. Like he initially had one persona that I kind of I was very fond of, and then there was other personas he was sharing that was a little distracting to me. When he started addressing different like religious jargon, yes, hi, Tamim, Council of Nicaea versus Kemet. Okay, I couldn't read that fast enough. Yes, and we all and you're all welcome to share your thoughts about what I'm talking about, because a conversation isn't just one way. So, and again, each one teach one, and we're to respect each other's belief. We don't have to agree with each other, but you're free to share in a respectable way. And thank you for sharing. So I started, like, when the person started talking this religious talk, it was uncharacteristic of this person, because I was following this person for quite a while, and I was wondering what was happening to this person. And so in today's video that I'm really responding to, I I feel at times with religious talk that sometimes we don't speak from our heart. See, when you speak from your heart, you speak from your heart, okay? Because it's the heart that addresses the matter. When you're talking to someone on a personal matter, address it from the heart, and that would be felt. But sometimes we address things from the Bible like it's a cut and paste type of thing. And it's going to sound it. It's going to sound impersonal. And when we say what the Bible says, or God says, you're not speaking from your heart. And you become sounding impersonal, dogmatic, and almost like like you're hiding behind the word to make you think that being spiritual is just repeating what's in a book. Being spiritual is about being your spiritual self and speaking through your heart. Your heart is where your spirit, your soul resides. Your soul does not reside in papers of a book. It's going to sound it. And there's sexism also that sometimes is promoted. When someone says, well, you can't address me that way because, I'm the head, or I'm the man, or, you have to be submissive. If you're a wife, you have to be submissive to your husband. Now, there's nothing wrong with, see, in any relationship, there's always going to be a head. And that's fine. Sometimes the head of the house is the male. And I was raised in a very male-dominated house. And nothing wrong with a male-dominated household. But in any household, there has to be love attached to it. And I think sometimes with religion, and in this case, the person follows the Bible, I think sometimes that the Bible is used as a weapon to put people in bondage. And a lot of the American blacks, including myself, used to live or currently live behind this book. I was a follower of the book. I read it daily. I used to go to church And I realized, the Bible or religion is not you. Like when I had taken on Christianity, I might have been the age 20 or 21 at the time. But the Bible isn't there. I mean, you have your own personality. You are you. And the Bible, at least for me, was just something as a guide. Your personality is you. And so if you're a stubborn person, you usually remain stubborn. If you're a loving person, you stay loving. If you're a curious person, you stay curious. If you're an angry person, you usually stay angry. The Bible, it seems, only brings out what's already in you. I didn't stop being who I was, but I think for me, I was always searching for answers. So I think that's what Christianity was for me, that I thought it was something that will answer my questions about my search. I would say that it could actually be revealing. And revealing when we start to hide behind the book, to try to hide our pain. And so you have many people in the Black community, and in many communities, not just blacks, but I'm only speaking on what group that I belong to. So if you're white, you're gonna hide behind your white community. If you're Hispanic, you hide behind a Hispanic persona. We're from the communities where we're from. Okay, so I think about it, and I'm thinking about the YouTuber and him basically saying, women to mind their affairs, and I feel that it's almost like a He-Man club. That some men use the Bible as a control mechanism against women. And I think that's wrong. And yes, you have a lot of big mouth women. Big mouth. But I see, listening to the YouTuber, that there's history that's not being said, that's being masked over because of the Bible. Because we're not saying what's the real problem. We're using the Bible as a shield to hide our pain, rather than addressing history. History in the Americas for Black people was one of trauma and sexual trauma. Just look at Jeffrey Epstein. You think this child molestation that he was doing was all about some young teenage white girls? Not at all. This is history. And you have groups, different denominations and religions, the Abrahamic religions, who have the same, what they call MO, sexual trauma. This Bible talks about sexual trauma in the Old Testament, especially. Sexual trauma. And then they enforce a religious doctrine for you to follow. And this was done upon blacks in the Americas. That they use a little religion and say, well, God says this and that. Oh, women, obey your man, obey your husbands. And I find that when scriptures is being used like that, it's actually masking over the problem. The problem is that oftentimes when you pick and select the shield or the weapon to use against the person. So in this case, you have some men who may use that scripture against women, but it turns out that why he said it, and this will explain why I'm saying about using as a shield of a weapon. Well, it turns out that the YouTuber shared a very, very personal story about his life. It was the first time ever he started really sharing, at least till recently, about his life. He was molested by female members of his own household growing up as a child for years. And so, as a little boy, he was traumatized. See, it's not just girls that are molested or raped. You have boys, little boys who are molested and raped growing up. And what could happen sometimes when children grow up, they repeat the cycle of the abuser. What happens to you when you're young, you usually set out the same patterns of the household you lived in. So if your household growing up was one of abuse, oftentimes when that person grows up, that they become the same type of abuser. Not all the time. If the person is in touch with their pain and decides for themselves, say, this happened to me, and in spite of all the evils that was done upon that person, themselves, that they make a personal choice to be contrary as a way of fighting back history. So I think for this individual, when you say women be submissive to your husband, it was a way to, in analyzing his story, see, I didn't know about his past. He had just shared it, but now I'm seeing a correlation. Him being abused by women growing up, and then him using, women obey your husband. And it sounds like a He-Man type of thing, right? Well, isn't it logical, women? If you understand, if you learn about the man that you're with, let's say you're married, or you have a boyfriend, and they use that terminology, this might be a very good opportunity to ask them in a loving way and through your heart, not through your head, but through your heart. Ask them respectfully and in private, what was their relationship with the women in his community or his household. And it might be very, very telling. You know what I'm saying? So you have a religion, and there's many things in the Abrahamic religions. Tons of topics. And you can cut and pick which one serves you at the moment. And I've met people, I used to live in the Caribbean as well. The Caribbean is a region in the world where the current population, where the mass majority of the people were descendants of people who were kidnapped, human trafficked into a foreign land, and then oppressed, generationally to do enslaved work for generations. And that Bible was used upon you to control you. You cannot, oil and vinegar does not mix. And so you cannot say those people who practiced, back in those days of slavery, that you were a Christian or Jew or even a Muslim, and you're doing horrific things against your fellow man and fellow woman. But even in these religions, it gets twisted, and people say, because it is in the Old Testament about conquering lands, and that you can take the women sexually. And if they had been with men before, like let's say they're married, that you could kill them, but the young girls you can take for your own. And that's what, like with Jeffrey Epstein, wasn't he doing the same thing about taking these young girls and making it his own? He's a Jewish man. And he might have been indoctrinated of the Old Testament that's filled with stories about taking young girls as your own and raping them and think nothing of it. So sometimes, again, we have this Bible, and in particular the Abrahamic religions, and we're mean. We become mean sometimes to cover up the pain from our life, our childhood. And so I ask those of you who are watching, is this Bible really your friend? Is it beneficial to you? Or is it masking over the traumas of your life? Rather than dealing with women and say, woman, I was molested by you growing up. Or let's say you're a woman and you were molested or raped by a man. And you say, I'm not going to be submissive to any man, blah, 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 It goes both ways. And what happens in our community, we become, we're untrusting of one another. Very, very untrusting. Even me as an adult. And sometimes I meet up with people from the community, black from the community, and I see so much pain in them. And I consider myself a very easygoing person, but by their actions, I see that there's a lot of pain in them and untrust. So even when a woman, or maybe even a man, is treating you with respect and gentleness, fear is attached. And that other party might be exactly what they're looking for in life, but because of past history, we give it up. And we say, I can't deal with it. And they run away. So I'm just pointing at things that are happening in our community, which really is, I think, reflective of many communities, not just blacks, but all communities, because we all live under this planet. We live on it. And so certain themes are going to be constant in our lives. We might speak different languages. We might live in different regions. But history affects us. And so there's another component in this video that I'm doing. Okay, we all have our history, our personal histories within the households that we live in, and oftentimes it was very traumatic. And for me, mine was traumatic also. See, again, we're taught about brutality. We're taught about molestations. We're taught about fears. We're taught about controls. And oftentimes it's generational. And so again, we have a Bible, and we use it as a weapon many times against our fellow brothers and sisters of the community or our households that we come from. And then what happens, we may feel forced to leave a particular region, but there's something that's very important here. You may run away from a community. You may try to hide, but it follows you. You hear what I'm saying? That when I was listening to this YouTuber, again, and not mention names, this YouTuber will be moving and start a community. But I see he has a lot of pain. And I see that even though he is a grown adult, it's still following him. And the family trauma has had extended into his own children. He mentioned for the first time that he has, like I knew he had a son at least, but I didn't know he had daughters. And both of his daughters are in a very, very, very bad situation. They're in physically and emotionally bad state, homelessness, drugs, lesbianism. Again, what your sexual orientation is your business. Okay? But I'm just mentioning it. See, oftentimes in the black community, many of us go into what they call alternative lifestyles because of traumas that we faced growing up. Just as this YouTuber had shared about his sexual traumas. And something is telling me that those daughters might have been victimized in some way. See, girls, it's almost without saying, when you look at a traumatized, angry black woman, she's often a victim of sexual abuse. Okay, they're living in the South. I don't know where his daughters were born, what state they were born in. But either way, see, we carry on traditions, whether the tradition is good or bad, and we put it on our children. We only know what we're taught. So if you're taught love, you usually are loving. But if you're taught abuse, we teach abuse to our children. And so we may say to ourselves, hey, let's have a new community. Let's follow the laws of the Bible. And it's like a persona, and it's almost like playing a character. A persona of the Old Testament in the olden days But were the olden days good? Really look at the word. Really look at what the Old Testament is. It's full of violence. Look at Genesis, Exodus. Everything is about abuse. And if you're talking about slavery in the Old Testament, you talk about sexual abuse. And so if that's your role model, the Old Testament, and then the New Testament focuses on the Jesus character who was murdered. So if your mind is on a book that focuses on slavery, or talk about someone being crucified, this is violence. And it's no love in it. There's nothing loving about the Bible. When it's focusing, love is love. Love is kind. Love is generous. Love is patient. All these things, okay, the Bible does give a definition in the New Testament about love. But in the characters of that book, if all the people you're looking at are all traumatized people, you're teaching trauma to that next generation. Boy, I didn't know I was going to say this in this video, but it's true. So you take on this religion and then you customize it to yourself, but there's no love. And wherever you go with this book, you're going to find the same pattern. It didn't erase your sexual trauma. It didn't prevent your daughters or your sons from being angry or drug addicts. You're perpetuating it because you're dealing with your pain through a book. There's a spirit attached to that book. It's all death. You need to start addressing your past traumas through your heart in an honest way. Say, hey, this happened to me, and you did this to me, and it hurt me. We need to stop this. See, there's spirits attached to, I believe that there's certain spiritual attachments or regional attachments that follow you. And it presents the same situation, same scenario, because again, we're genetic also. What some people call genetic memory. And this genetic memory and responses to these stimuli repeats itself. And it gets reinforced and reinforced until you start to say, wait a minute, this is happening over and over again. So that no matter where you go, it follows you. And I speak of myself as well. I'm including myself in all this too. I'm not just pointing fingers. I'm including myself in this. I've traveled many different parts of this planet, and the same type of problems seem to follow me. And I said, wow. And then this YouTuber that I'm basing this video on will be moving. But his generation and his children are facing trauma. Before you move on to some homestead, you better address those family issues because it's going to follow you. And following the people of the book is like following the blind. You follow a blind person, you're going to fall in the pit. You need to have your eyes open, all of us. Open your eyes when you walk and be truthful to yourself and to your children, rather than following a book that is filled with despair, hardship, witchcraft. If you follow the tenets of that book, how it's being practiced now, just look at it. Look at all these people and what's happening in these Abrahamic faith systems. Wherever it goes, follows death, follows slavery, follows sexual abuse. It follows all these traumas. That's what's happening. Rather than following pages of a book that is filled with hypocrisy, and the practice of it is practiced with hypocrisy, maybe to change your religion, the religion of the heart. Your heart doesn't lie if you're in tune with it. Be heart-centered and let that be your religion and your guide. Your heart. Not your head, but your heart in dealing with other people. So that when you do move to a new location, you want a brand new life, don't forget to bring your heart in the matter. And don't let a book talk on your behalf. Talk through your heart to your partner, to your children, and say, you know, that was the past, but this is the now. We're not going to live in some past. We're going to live in the present and embrace every moment of the now, because your now breathes in your future. You want a bright future? Have a bright now. Have a bright now. An illumination of the present. Not through a book of death, but the book of life that resides in your heart. Live in the heart, because the heart is universal. You bring your heart in Europe. You bring your heart to the Americas. You bring your heart in the Pacific Islands. You bring your heart into Africa. You bring your heart into Asia. You will be understood. And they'll understand, you'll understand each other. But when you have a book speak on your behalf, then you're speaking through a veil, a wall. And that person was talking silent, they're talking through a wall. He said, oh, women, obey your husband. How would you like someone to say, obey your boss? Obey your wife. It's, you have to be human. Or kids, you better obey your parents. Right? Good early start, lady. Peace and love. Yes. Good morning. Yeah, some parents, they abuse their kids with words. They might smack them or hit them to shame them, rather than talking through their heart in a matter. You're going to enrage that kid because you're not talking through your heart. You're being abusive. You're going to promote rage in that woman when you say, oh, the Bible says you got to obey your husband. You use it as a wall and a weapon. You want to deal with human beings? Deal with them through your heart. and not through a book who has that has a track record of disaster. Speak through your heart and with love. Love is not a book. Love is what's within. And if you're not a loving person, be honest with yourself. Deal with yourself. Or just stay away from people. But when you're ready to be a human being, start talking through your heart and do unto others as it, there's some golden rules. Treat people how you want to be treated. And be upfront about your intentions. Be upfront. Be honest. And so that when you move to your homestead, it'll bring about a new foundation of love, of honesty, not through a book. And if you don't address the pain, no matter where you go, it's going to follow, just like it followed me. Address your sexual traumas. Address it. And if you hurt somebody sexually, you should go and address that person. I can't lie, I realistically only go by the Bible because that is what was first taught to me, etc. Okay, again, I thank you, viewer, for sharing that. Thank you. Yeah, this video is not too slam dunk, at least on the surface. It's not. That's not my intention. The essence of this message is your heart. That your spirit being, your love center, is emanating from your heart. But you have people who don't have heart, and then they take that book, the Bible, or the Abrahamic traditions, and they distort it, and they use it as a shield, as a weapon, and then they don't want to hear. They say, oh, it says this in the book, it says that, and you're going to exacerbate that other person. You're going to enrage them. Because what you're doing is you're letting a book rather than your heart. Before any word was printed on that paper, there was a heart. The heart is always first. But some of us lie, and we kill our heart, and then we take this book and use it as a weapon against your children, against your wives, against your husbands, against your neighbors. No matter where you go in life, you carry yourself. You bring yourself. But just make sure that if you're going to start a new community, you make sure you get healed. Heal yourself first. Heal your heart so that you don't perpetuate the sexual abuse that's going on. And so, as I started in this live stream, that this video was prompted to me to do because a fellow YouTuber shared about his growing up and being sexually molested by female members of his household. And then he has a wall against women. It comes out. But this was the first time it was shared, at least I heard from his own lips, about him being sexually abused by women. And so it's understandable. I understand you. And I understand women that are molested by men. I understand them. But we need to embrace ourselves and admit that you've been wronged and pained and say, make a conscious decision to say enough is enough. I'm going to live a goodly lifestyle, but not through a book, but through your heart. The heart could overcome many things. It is painful. It is hard to do, but it's not impossible. And and it's okay to be alone and to live alone. If you're not ready to be out there in public, we understand you. May you receive the healing so deeply, a deep healing and cleansing. I suggest for all of you, and including myself, when you start feeling the pain in your heart due to traumas that happen to us as children or even as adults, get alone in a room, or in nature, preferably in nature if you can, and sit down and you say, this happened to me, but, be honest. Talk to the universe and say, this is my story, universe, creator. I'm in pain and suffering, and I wish to be healed. Please remove the pain from my heart so I may heal. I wish to have family, or that I have a family. Please heal us from our heart, and so we can really start a true community of love. May the love be planted in the earth and blossom and grow our community. That's my message, folks. I wish you all a heartfelt love, joy, and peace. You want joy? Be joy. You want life? Be life. Don't live behind a book. And when you address people, address them from their heart, and you're going to experience that love jump out of that person onto you. Heartfelt. Be heartfelt. And learn how to listen to one another. Don't step on each other's toes. Give enough space for that other body, just as they are to give you space as well. We all need some elbow room, But I think if we do those things, we're on a correct journey. And so that wherever we move to, that joy will follow. When you bring that disastrous book of trauma, it brings with you. Just look at people, where they go with that book and what's happening. It's bringing disaster. There are curses attached to it, because the people who wrote it were not people of genuosity. They were not people of genuine. And so you carry that book, you're carrying the spirits that are attached to that book of pain and suffering. Throw that book out and embrace your heart. Let your heart guide you. And I assure you that there'll be healing upon your whole life. Peace, love, and joy to you. I hope that you understand where I'm coming from, and that it's not meant to harm. Don't hide behind a book, ever. Don't hide. Love, and love comes from the heart. Have a heart religion, and you'll be universal every inch of this planet if we all practice the religion of the heart of love and peace. So peace, love, and joy to you all out there. Okay? Yes. Yes. Thank you for sharing that, Most High Child. Yes. And you, the Most High Child, the Most High is your heart. Get in tune with your heart. And you see that things will really be blossoming even more. Even more. Wow. Peace, love, and joy to all who hear this video, this live stream, and may be a blessing to you because love is universal. Let's be universal. And the universe is one of love, not a book. Take care to you all. Bye-bye.